In this podcast, we chat about the win against Wigan, go to the praising place, look ahead to Blackburn, and answer your podcast questions. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and this is our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod.
Wants support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Ravanelli coming alive again. Juninho wants the ball played to him. Ravanelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Jonny, Dana and Tom. We are the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro Matchday Chatter in a podcast. And a 4-1 win for Boro, a hat-trick for Chuba Akpom. He is top of the goal scorers charts. Ryan Giles is top of the assists. It's a Christmas miracle on Riverside Street. Guys, how are you feeling after Boro's win? Dana Moll, 3 words. How are you feeling?
I'm going to go for 'tis the season in the festive spirit. Boro absolutely love winning at the Riverside on Boxing Day. I had a look at our record. Since we've been in the Championship in 2009, or since 2009, 2010, we have played 10 games at home on Boxing Day and won 9 of them. Only conceded 2 goals along the way as well, which is a mega record. That is some Boxing Day record, that is. But yeah, I'm just really glad that we reacted and responded to that defeat against Burnley, because that could have really knocked the stuffing out of us, but it didn't. And in the season of gift giving, the greatest gift of them all, Chuba Akpom with that hat trick. And shout out to Ryan Giles as well, because Santa would have been proud of those deliveries. It was just a really good afternoon for us. Lots of good things to come from that game. I absolutely love coming back to Teesside, going straight to the Riverside and seeing Boro win on Boxing Day. We are very good at it, as I've just mentioned. And yeah, there's, as I said, lots of positives to take. I will say I do think Wigan were poor. We'll get onto that later. But Akpom hat-trick, Marcus Forss scoring, Hayden Hackney being brilliant, 4-1 scoreline, a capacity crowd. Zach Steffen bounced back from his nightmare at Burnley. There was just a lot of really good positives to come from that game. So all in all, very happy.
Tom, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I've also got a festive 3 words, but probably not as eloquent as Dana put it. I've got proper Christmassy like.
That's better than mine, Tom.
Poetry, emotion.
Teesside. You get that Teesside tip in there.
Culture.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it just, as Dana's just said there, it just feels like a Christmas tradition now. You go to the Riverside the day after Christmas, watch Boro pick up 3 points. And I said it on our preview show the other day, like I generally can't remember the last time we did lose on Boxing Day. Obviously, it doesn't seem like that far away if it was against Sheffield, but yeah, I mean, I must have put it out in my memory, but great way to, cap off Christmas, great performance. And just as Dana said there, after Burnley, which wasn't a great display by any means, it's great to just get right back on track.
2 really positive 3 words there. I want to go with we'll go on Sizzler. I just think that we're going to go at the playoffs, smash it, and just win, and then we're going to be in the Premier League next year. But no, seriously, it was a really good performance yesterday. Really happy with it. Really good to see us bounce back, and then I think just the way we played yesterday, and I do agree with you, then I thought Wigan were really poor. But we punished them, scored goals, and created chances, and we've done it pretty much every game under Carrick, and we're just looking balanced and refreshed, but also I think ready to go for the second half of the season. That's why my 3 words are we'll go on Sizzler, because I'm hoping it's going to be a good second half of the season. But let's chat about Wigan then, because it was back-to-back 4-1 wins against Wigan. Kolo Toure's Wigan were just, they started off so well and made it compact, and then the first goal completely changed the complexion of the game. And then Boro ended up scoring for Chuba Akpom with a hat-trick and Marcus Forss with the first one. And then we decided to concede, and it wasn't very Christmassy. But Dana Moll, how would you assess the win against Wigan on Boxing Day?
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, I don't want to come across as if I'm the Grinch, but I'm not going to purr too much about it just because I did think Wigan were poor. I was a bit confused after the game because obviously I was on tees and there were a few texts coming in saying that we're basically complimenting Wigan in a sort of backhanded way. But I feel like if you're saying things like, oh, they fought until the end, they gave a real good go at it, it just kind of tells me that you're a bit crap. And I think Wigan played like their second bottom of the championship, which of course they are. They did get through a few times, it has to be said, but that's probably by virtue of the fact that Boro do play quite advanced with Ryan Giles in particular, and we are naturally going to leave gaps in behind. And if simply put, if you're not exploiting those, then you really are bad. But yeah, even when they did get through, they just didn't have that quality to be able to punish Boro. And I think in terms of their approach, they were defending quite vertically, in terms of not the defense, but packing the wide areas out with players and basically leaving the opposite flank completely free. And if you're a Borough fan and you're thinking which two players do you want to be given space in a football match, it's Ryan Giles and Isaiah Jones. And time again, that switch was on. They were coming to that ball side, and then switch was there. And I think it was a bit disappointing to see Borough not really take advantage of that and punish Wigan how I feel like they should have, given the fact that they were leaving. If Isaiah Jones or Tommy Smith on that right hand side had the ball, Ryan Giles was completely free. And I think we worked that really well. I just wanted to see us take advantage of that a little bit more. But even despite the fact that I think Wigan were poor, I think Borough did show a lot of good stuff in that game. Passing it through the thirds really, really well. Hayden Hackney was absolutely fantastic, and personally my man of the match. I know Chuba Akpom obviously gets the headlines, but I thought Hackney was unbelievable. He looks like he's been playing against these championship teams for many, many years, and I think this is what his second month playing in this division. And he's 20 years old. It's crazy the amount of maturity, and he approaches games with so much confidence. And I think that's elevating his performance levels as well. You can tell that he's almost channeling Carrick in a way, like he's mirroring Carrick's game. And I think that's absolutely fantastic to see. I thought the defence, Lenihan, is probably going under the radar a little bit, but I think he's definitely imposing his importance on this team. Zach Steffen, as I said, was much better. Him, I think we're going to talk about the press. He's key to basically attracting the press and then Boro play out from there. I think we were good at bypassing Wigan's pressing triggers. And yeah, it was just, it was good. It was good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to take anything away from Boro, but I'm a bit reluctant to go get too excited about it because I do think Wigan were poor.
I'm going to ask you a question on Hackney, Dana. Do you think that if you're going to sum up Carrick's first few games, do you think that Hayden Hackney is improvement from making him from an academy player to a player that looks really comfortable in the championship is probably the best thing that he's done so far?
Definitely, along with playing Chuba Akpom in that withdrawn striker role, because of course Leo gets immense credit for bringing him into the team in the first place, but then Carrick really had to pick up and make sure that he was a mainstay in that team, because he could have easily taken Hayden Hackney out of that starting 11 and it could have just been a little 1 game thing or 2 game thing, whatever, under Leo Perkovic. But he made sure, and he's Hayden Hackney's made sure that he stayed in this team. It's really impressive, not only how he's sort of placed this importance on Hayden Hackney, but also how Hayden Hackney has made sure that his place in that team is absolutely nailed. And it's because of his great performances. He's just got that fearlessness in midfield. And what I've noticed of Carrick's tactics is that he really wants those midfielders to be able to take the ball on the half turn. And when you see Steffen with the ball, yes, it puts the shits up people, but it's for a reason that he's playing out from the back. And he often tries that ball into central areas, and Hayden Hackney or Jonny House will take it on the half turn and get us basically around the press by playing it out wide. So it's really, really good to see. I think he's an absolute delight to watch, Hayden Hackney. And I remember I wasn't too excited about him initially because I think Chris Wilder's ruined my love of football, to be honest. I'm too scared to get excited about anything or anyone now. But Hayden Hackney's fantastic. He's brilliant.
Okay then. Tom, I know Dana's give a lot of praise at Hackney, Lenihan and Akpom, obviously, of course, getting all of the praise as well. But What impressed you about Boro's performance yesterday?
Well, I just thought the way we controlled the game was really impressive. Going into that, I was actually expecting Wigan to be better than they were. Purely because, having watched them last week against Sheffield United, I thought they played well in the second half, and you could see what Kolo Toure was trying to do. They didn't look like the same team we'd beat a few months back. And then, we had the preview show last Thursday, and Barry was quite excited by the first couple of games under Kolo Toure. He's like, you can see what he's doing. He just needs time to do it. And I feel like I didn't see any of that yesterday. So I think from my side of things, other than feeling a little bit nervy when they broke through the couple of times they did in the first half, and then they let themselves down by poor finishing. Really, I'd never felt like, other than those times, we were in any danger of conceding. We could just controlled it really well, and then just being absolutely clinical with the finishing. I remember at 3-1 thinking, you know what, really hope Akpom gets his hat-trick now, and then he does in possibly one of the best finishes of the game. So I think it's kind of like a mix of both. Controlling the game well, and then just being extremely clinical once it comes to it in the final third.
Do you think there was anything in the game that completely changed the game on its head? Because when we talk about football, obviously you have those key moments, you have certain parts, certain players. But do you think there's anything that really changed this game and got Middlesbrough ahead in the game and on the front foot?
Well, for me, it was the first two goals. The first one from Marcus Forss, another great finish. But I think up until that point, that was unintentional. That one. I didn't mean that. I think up until that point, like I say, Wigan had broken through a few times and kind of let themselves down with their finishing. But there were a couple of occasions. I think the most glaring one was they had a back post header which seemed to go off their striker's shoulder and out for a goal kick. But I'm just thinking, that was a bit close. Would a better team have punished us there? And then it did seem like they were like you said earlier, defending really compactly whenever we were going forward. So it was like, where's this goal going to come from? But I think that first goal really forced them to open up. And then the second goal coming so soon after half time, I think just completely changed it from that point on. I remember saying to my dad at 3-0, I wouldn't have thought this was coming in the first half, but I thought the second goal, like I say, really changed things for us there and just allowed us to push on from that point.
Yeah, it really did. And when you say like the first goal and around their press and their shape, the first 20 minutes or so, they were compact Wigan, but Wigan Athletic, I feel like we need to talk about your press, because the idea of high press was there. The execution was horrendous. And I think there's a few clips out of the game, and I've picked up one which we put on our Twitter page and our Instagram page as well. But in terms of how Boro were playing and how Wigan were looking to press, so there's always a trigger in every game where you look to try and press an opposition player, or you look to try and get a bit more players around him so he's going to be more prone to the mistake. Boro obviously play out from the back. Stefan's looking to play to Hackney or to Houghton, play out on the half turn like Denny was mentioning earlier. But what we're going to try to do is press those two midfielders, press Dale Fry and Lenihan, and make it difficult, and Tommy Smith, to make it really difficult for Boro to play out and force them long. So Wigan can win the second balls and then also get back in possession again and make things really difficult. But there's an example of this where it kept happening and Boro kept finding a way through. So firstly, Stefan gets the ball in the 40th minute. He plays it through to Hayden Hackney. And what Wigan kept doing was being over eager and then pressing the wrong person at the wrong time, but then also creating too much space from defence to midfield. So when the ball comes into Hackney, he plays on the half turn really, really well. And he's excellent on the half turn, by the way. So the worst thing you want to do is let Hayden Hackney play on the half turn and get the ball out wide. what tended to be happening out the game was Wigan were over pressing and trying to attack probably the centre halves. But then also with that, the defence wasn't following with them. So the midfield and the forwards would go forward, but then this would create a huge space for Boro to play out. So when they did play out, and say Smith got the ball on the right-hand side, was able to overlap their winger. He was in a bundle of space, and Boro were in this little place where in the middle of the pitch, they had about 4 or 5 Boro players to able to create a numerical advantages, but also attack space, and then also double up on the fullbacks and also be able to play through. So a lot of Boro's goals yesterday were playing it through the half space, but then also creating space on the half turn and Boro attacking forward. And when they were able to do that, we created a lot of chances. But there was a lot of key moments in that game where Boro were able to just get in between the lines because they were over pressing from the midfield and the forwards. The defence wasn't coming up to kind of nullify the space. And then Boro were able to play between the lines because of that. And then you were able to find in that first half Duncan Watmore. And at that times, as Jones was going to be in there, Chuba Akpom, everyone was playing between the lines. And I felt that was kind of key to Boro being successful yesterday. But Wigan Athletic, you have to be so much better
And a point on
press. And go on.
I was just going to say a point on that. I was looking back at clips from the Burnley game. What they did really well is rather than pressing the centre halves, they pressed the ball receiver who was intended to obviously receive the pass from Stefan. So that was really causes problems because, as you said, you cannot let Hayden Hackney receive the ball in the half turn because he's very good at it. It's that sort of body position to be able to just turn and release the ball. He's very good at that. So Burnley did well, and why Boro came unstuck at Turf Moor was because they were pressing the midfield as opposed to necessarily Stefan and the centre halves. So maybe something to keep an eye on. And as well, just off the back of the Wigan game, something that I'd be mindful of going forward is Boro's reaction to scoring, because obviously we scored at Burnley and then conceded immediately. And then the Asgard goal came, I think it's 3 minutes after we scored the third goal. And then after the fourth, Wigan went immediately down the other end and almost scored. And I wasn't even looking at that point. I was too busy thinking, oh my God, I've just seen a Middlesbrough player score a hat-trick. And so maybe that's something to be mindful of. Our reaction, talking about maybe things that we can improve, our reaction to scoring ourselves, maybe we need to tighten up a little bit.
The old cliche, then you're most vulnerable when you've just scored a goal.
Absolutely.
Just because a lot of people tend to check out in the enjoyment of it and with the enjoyment of the goal and then tend to concede. But teams do tend to come out. But for me, I thought Wigan just... You can even look at the average positions if you go on who scored and have a look at it. But Wigan's shape yesterday was just awful. But the Boro were able to beat them in the press, too aggressive in their pressing, but we're collective as a unit as well. I think when you are pressing, you've got to have the idea and have the right idea. You've got to try and execute it, but executing it's a lot more difficult. But I want to talk about that first goal. Then Marcus Forss finally getting on the score sheet again. It was a great finish, as Tom said and tweeted. But do you think it was the pick of the bunch, or have you got another one in mind?
I do like Akpom's third goal, but I think we absolutely have to give credit to Marcus Forss because it is a fantastic finish, to be able to divert the ball goalwards from that pass from Watmore. And I have to apologise to Watmore because I did think that was just a really bad shot initially because he sort of swivels, but he has his head down the whole time. And when I think of Watmore, I think of having his head down, not really looking around him and just having a shot. There was a moment in the second half where he just ran and ran and ran and then ran into a defender because he's very Watmore, isn't it? Tunnel vision. So sorry, Duncan. It was a pass. I need to go back to Boots Opticians, clearly. But yeah, it was a fantastic, fantastic finish from Forss. I'm really, really happy for him. But that third goal from Akpom, I think, was brilliant. Ryan Giles' delivery was absolutely fantastic, the best of the night. And he has to adjust his body to meet the height of that cross because it's sort of dropping as it reaches him. So it's fantastic reactions to be able to just adjust his body to cushion that home. And all 3 goals were absolutely brilliant. The first one, I honestly thought was top bins. I was getting really excited because I really love top bins goals, but it hits the roof of the net. But nonetheless, a finish that I think shows the confidence that he's in because the conviction and the power behind that strike, I think just shows he just leathered it, didn't he? And fantastic. The second one, it was Akpom's favourite, cut across the goalkeeper, bottom right-hand corner or bottom left-hand corner, and left foot, weaker left foot. It was, 3 really good goals, 4 really good goals actually, 3 from Akpom, of course, but I think the third of Akpom's was the pick of the bunch for me.
Okay, and there was obviously one down part of the game, conceding, but we won't come to that because it was clear. I think it was Tommy Smith's error from the cross in and leaving his man, and did blame Dale Fry because of it. But there was another moment. Tom, Jonny House went off injured, head injury. We don't really know the extent of it. Mowatt came in. Mowatt has had too many minutes, but how would you think he played yesterday?
It was all right. Probably give him around 6 out of 10 for that second half. You could tell he's not played very many minutes because there were passes that I would say he missed that Housen wouldn't have done, and that's going to come with familiarity in the system. There was one point where I think it was actually on the lead up to their goal. He had a straight pass through the lines to Duncan Watmore, and instead of playing that pass, dribbled it backwards towards into his own penalty area and towards the corner, and ended up having to clear the ball out for a throw-in, which they eventually, they then scored from pretty much, which I could just not understand why he made the decision to do that. But then on the other hand, it was right before the second goal, which I think Hayden Hackney is going to get all the plaudits for the pass to Giles for the cross anyway. But Mowatt actually makes a pretty decent turn in centre midfield to give the ball to Hackney from that. And that's gone a bit under the radar. I think credit where it's due. Mowatt hadn't really impressed me in prior games before this, but I thought he played all right yesterday, and I wouldn't feel too nervy about him keeping his place for Blackburn if Housen's still out.
Thanks for answering my next question, because I was about to ask you, would you like to see him against Blackburn? But we'll move on and we'll chat about Muniz, because wasn't on the bench yesterday. Carrick didn't even mention it in the presser. So, Dan and Tom, do you think that Muniz is definitely out the door? Dana, do you think he is?
Not necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we touched on it last week, didn't we? That Crooks is coming on before him, who isn't technically a striker, although we'll get onto it later. I could definitely see why Carrick is playing him in that position. But, I mean, you can't really blame Carrick for not giving him more minutes, because Crooks has come on and made an impact. Forss obviously scoring now. Akpom in the form of his life. You just can't really see a way that Muniz gets into this team. It was funny that when Mitrovic scored for Fulham yesterday, he just tweeted Mitro, and then about an hour later tweeted Chuba. It's just made me laugh. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the end, but I wouldn't be surprised. Carrick does seem to not be averse to sort of switching things up. We've seen Dijksteel out of the team a few times, out of the squad even. Bowler the same. Pharrell Willis seems to be, Grandpa Simpson. I know I mentioned that last week, but he's Grandpa Simpson. 1 minute he's on the bench, 1 minute he's not in the squad. He doesn't seem to be particularly bothered of maybe ruffling a few feathers a little bit in team selection.
Tom, what are you thinking?
I think he probably is going to go in January. He doesn't seem to fit the system at the moment, and I don't think that's any fault of his either. I think he's just not that type of player. I will say, as I've said before, I was impressed with him earlier in the season. Whenever he was getting a chance to play or starting, he never looked like he was given anything less than 100%, and you can tell that he's still invested. I think, as you can tell from his Twitter before he joined, and then after he joined, he kind of really seemed to love us for some reason. I think he's still investing. He probably still would give 100% if he was getting a game. It's just I don't think he fits into this system. And as Dan has just said there, Matt Crooks is getting played ahead of him as a striker now. I think going into January, we've got 3 or 4 signings in mind. I think one of them is going to be a striker, and they'll probably be coming in place of Muniz. And I think the other thing as well, it's came out in the last couple of weeks. I think it was Gremio had a move turned down for him in January because I think Fulham were wanting him to get championship experience. I feel like that type of stuff comes out in the press if there's substance to it, and there's it might be like agents trying to drum up interest or and anything like that. But I feel like there's definitely something there, and it's either we're looking at facilitating a move for him or he's trying to get one himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, I think it's a shame that he's going to go because of at the start of the season. I thought we've got a good striker here. I remember his header. I can't remember who it was against, but it was an absolute leaping header.
Watford.
Watford. Was it Watford? Yeah. What a
Was
great
it
header that
Watford?
was. No, I thought it was. No,
No,
he
it
did
wasn't.
score a
No,
header,
it
I
wasn't
think.
Watford.
It was Watford, yeah, and then
There
he
was
tried
one
to
at
score from
home.
70 yards later.
Yeah, there's one at home. I know which one you're on about, Johnny, but technically I
Yeah.
also don't at the same time.
Yeah, he leapt
I'll
like a
find it.
salmon. Leapt like a salmon, and it was a great header. But yeah, it's a shame it hasn't worked out. But like you've both said, I think there's a permanent striker incoming, and
Cardiff.
yeah, Cardiff. There you go. Yeah, honey. Thanks. That was that was an Other Guys reference. If you didn't watch Other Guys, then you'll not understand the word I've just said. But we'll chat about another striker, Chuba Akpom and Ryan Giles as well, the left back, and top goal scorer, top assists. I don't think I've ever seen that in my lifetime as a Boro fan. There probably will be a moment where it has happened, but I don't know. But they've had 4 goal combinations together. I think it's the highest in the championship so far. But what's making this partnership work so well? Because a left back and a forward isn't what you normally expect, is it? You'd expect the left winger or the right winger to do it, but a left back. Dana, why is it working so well?
Because Ryan Giles' left foot is unbelievable, and also Akpom's anticipation of his left foot is unbelievable as well. He said after the game that he's been researching Ryan Giles, and you can tell. He's been doing his homework on his deliveries at previous loan clubs, and I think you saw that the most in that third goal because he makes a run in front of James McLean, who's caught napping a little bit, and he just positions himself in the right place at the right time. And as I said, he adjusts his body to meet the height of that cross. And yeah, they just seem to have this really almost innate combination play at the moment, which is brilliant to watch. But I think individually as well, taking the kind of combination out, you've got Ryan Giles there, who I think is probably the best crosser of the ball in the championship. And then Akpom in his own right is a good poacher. He showed it at PAOK. I keep mentioning this goal against Barnsley where he anticipated that rebound. It's always been within his game. It's just needed to be brought out, and Carrick is bringing that out of him. So, yeah, it's just 2 good players in their own right naturally coming together, and it's brilliant to see.
When 2 become 1, which is also an absolute. But Tom,
Nice.
Tom, what do you think? Is there anything more to add to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, this season's Isaiah Jones and Matt Crooks, aren't they? They're just doing extremely well, and I think a lot of that is coming down to the high quality chances created by Ryan Giles. I think he offers something on the left hand side, which I don't think Jones necessarily offers on the right, although he does still offer something different, and it is a positive that you're looking at more kind of like getting to the byline and the low crosses in from Jones rather than crosses from deep or for the players who were better aerially from Ryan Giles. But no, it's great to see, and then giving Akpom his credit as well. Just as Dana said there, the fact that he's kind of like studied Ryan Giles and knows where to be. They've both clearly got that green line chemistry now, and it's it's really showing.
Yeah, it does. And if Chuba keeps going the way he's going, he'll end up on 31 goals this season. So that means he could probably sell a DVD collection outside of Empire. So if he does, then fantastic. But he's got 8 more for the Cleveland Centre, 4 more for British Longer. So it's a goal scoring machine. But let's move on to questions then, because every week you can send us in your questions via Twitter, the Boro_Breakdown, email at theboroBreakdown@hotmail.com, or join our Telegram chat with over 290 Boro fans speaking everything probably but Boro at the moment, but they do speak about it sometimes. And there's loads of different chats in there. We have like gaming, EFL, tickets, and also just the main chat as well. But the first question is from Alex. He says, would you accept a high bid for Chuba Akpom in January? I know we have a year extension option in his contract, but the likelihood is he won't sign a further deal. Thus, we'll either leave on a free at the end of the season or we accept a lower price move, lower price this summer. Tom, would you accept a high bid for Chuba Akpom in January?
I wouldn't want to, but I feel like we're in the place now where we can do the same thing as Coventry when Gyökeres had that one good season. Just start demanding 20 million for him. I think if someone comes in with that, then yeah, obviously. But I think from making business sense and the aim of trying to be profitable as a club, if someone did come in with silly money, then yeah, absolutely, and we'll try and replace them the best we can. But I wouldn't want to in January. Really, we've got a good thing going at the moment. I wouldn't want to see us kind of derail our season, and I'd rather we took up that option to extend his contract.
I don't understand how he's not likely to sign it. I would flip that question and say he's nailed on to sign a new deal because that man loves playing under Carrick. You can tell. He was chanting or dancing along with the Super Michael Carrick chant at Hull. The same with Blackpool. He's spoken about how he feels at home at Middlesbrough now that his Middlesbrough career is fully kicked off, has started. You can tell he's very appreciative of the fans' support and the fans have really taken to Akpom. So I don't understand how he's not likely to sign it. I think he will sign a new deal because he's got a good thing going at the moment. As he said, he feels at home. I think that's rare to come by sometimes, especially for a striker. So why end that? Why put an end to the good little run that he's on and the good moment that he's in? I think he will sign a new deal.
Okay, so the next question is from Stephen. He says, is there any chance of signing Giles on a permanent in January? Absolutely no idea what he's worth. 2 years of loan suggests he's available. I'd love to sign him. To be fair, Ryan Giles has been on loan quite a lot over the last few seasons, and this one is really working out really well. But, Wolves are still on him, of course. New manager may want to have a look at him in the summer, but we'll see. But Dana, is there any chance of Boro going for Giles on a permanent? I mean, if Akpom stays, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen in January if it does. I don't think Wolves will keep him, if I'm honest, because I think they'll probably be of the same fabric of clubs that want to breed through these academy players and then let them go. I just can't see Ryan Giles getting into that Wolves team, not because of a lack of quality, but more just because of what I said there, that sort of approach to developing young players and then letting them go. And I also think that he will go for a much cheaper fee, and I say cheaper there, than people would think. I don't know exactly what amount, so maybe that was a completely redundant thing for me to just say, but I don't think there's any chance of us doing it in January. I think we'll probably reassess in the summer because I don't think it would necessarily be smart to do that in January, because even though I said cheaper there, I still think it would be a significant fee for us. So maybe look at it again in the summer.
I think, in fairness, some lass got him to sign a permanent contract at the Christmas sign a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh well, he's permanently signed a 3-year deal, I guess. So I mean, what we want it for? So it'd be fine. But is there a fee in mind, Tom, that you think that he'd be worth?
Honestly, I couldn't even have a guess at that. I think what he's worth to us might be drastically different to what he's worth to Wolves. I have seen, when we signed him on Twitter and whenever he has a good game, there are Wolves fans who are saying, why do we keep loaning him out? And, we could do with him back and stuff. But whether or not their club sees it that way, I don't know.
I think it definitely depends on where Wolves ends up this season. They were bottom before they beat Everton yesterday. And if they do and are safe, then I think that's definitely a deal that is going to happen. But if they get relegated, it's just nailed on. He would probably stay at Wolves, in my opinion. But maybe like 5 to 7 mil. You never know. But Boro
10 mil. I do, because as Tom
Yeah.
said there, it's what he's worth to Wolves. And if
Mm.
this was a Championship club, they would ramp that fee up considerably. But it's a Premier League club, so I feel like they will obviously be aware of his importance to Middlesbrough and probably maybe increase
on
the
that.
demand a little bit. But yeah, I just don't think it's as much as people might think.
Yeah. Well, he was the 4th choice left back in the summer, and he is, of course, now on loan and doing really well. But we'll see in January and in the summer if he does sign a permanent deal. But I would love it as well. But the next question is from Keith, and he says, is Crooks now primarily a striker for Boro going forward? Do you think he can play a role in centre midfield under Carrick's system? Then it was a strange one yesterday because, when Howson comes off, you would think that Crooks would normally fit into that centre midfield position, but he didn't. So do you think he's now an hour forward?
You know what? It is an interesting one because right now he is, absolutely. And I do actually think that that's his position going forward, because when I think of Matt Crooks, aside from the fine hair and him being just a genuinely sound bloke, I think of his poaching. And I remember specifically, and this was at the very beginning, I think it was his first Middlesbrough appearance against Fulham at the beginning of the 2020-21 season. I do remember putting in my notes, Matt Crooks is not good in the air for a tall man, or something along those lines. So his aerial ability, despite his height, is not one of his strengths. One of his strengths is being in the right place at the right time and poaching. If you were to play a compilation of his Middlesbrough goals, you would come to one word, and that is poacher. So I think his future is up front. I really do. Because with Ryan Giles and Isaiah Jones, particularly Giles, there is a really good opportunity there to get the best out of Crooks as a striker. And he's not a midfielder in this Carrick system for me, because, as I said, Hackney and Howson have to receive the ball facing their own goal, and they have to be able to play on the half turn because of that. That's not Crooks' strong suit. So he doesn't get in that midfield for me. He plays up front, and I think that's his position for the foreseeable. And I am not mad at that, because I think that would get a decent amount in terms of maximising somebody's ability out of Matt Crooks. And if we do need to go long, for whatever reason, if that's a plan B or plan C or whatever, then you could maybe see his aerial ability improve. But I do like him as a striker, and I do like his cameo role off the bench. I think it suits him and it suits us as well.
Nice of you to indirectly say that Matt Crooks turns like a bus. I agree. I agree. Then I think him being a forward now is definitely the way to go. Good at pushing, but also you say maximising the player. I think maximising his value as well for getting the most money out of Matt Crooks is probably as a 10 or a forward now rather than that centre midfielder role. Even though he did play quite well under Wilder in that system. But the final question. A bit tongue in cheek. But it's from Matt, and it says, "When are you booking your hotels for Wembley?" So, Tom, when are you booking your hotel for Wembley? Or is it already booked?
No, it's not already booked. I won't be staying down there. I'll be going on the bus and coming straight back. So probably never would be the answer for me.
Okay. Then. Right. Well, let's move on to the praise and place then, because the praise and place is the place we like to give praise to. Dana's pink hair, man, and Tom's hairdresser, who now we now have the same haircut.
I want to get that haircut too. FOMO.
What the low ball fades, sweep back. We can make that happen on this podcast. I mean, I've said this for the last few weeks, but we will make stuff happen. We just don't know when. But who gets your place in the praise and place this week, Tom? Who are you going to go for?
Well, I mean, Akpom and Giles have to be absolute shoo-ins for it, and I would probably say Hayden Hackney as well. I don't think any explanations really needed for Akpom and Giles. 3 assists, 3 goals, and then Hackney yesterday, I just thought had an incredible game. Seems to be getting better with every game that goes by, and like I said, that pass that freed up Giles for the second goal was fantastic, and that reminded me a lot of what Tav was able to do on that left hand side last year as well. I remember saying to my mate yesterday, imagine if we kept all the Tavern and we had them two in the same midfield. That would just be incredible. But yeah, I thought Hackney was brilliant yesterday.
Okay, then Darragh, who are you going to go for?
I'm going to go for Mr. Aardvark, Darragh Lenihan, because I think he's the dynamic on that left side is interesting, isn't it? Because Ryan Giles is not playing as a left back; he's playing as a left winger. He's that advanced, and as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that's going to leave spaces in behind down that left channel. But I think Lenihan is really solid in that position. He made some good blocks yesterday, and he's also a decent threat in the air. And one of these days, he will score from one of those corners. And I feel like it's going to happen sometime soon, hopefully against Blackburn, because they were teasing him a little bit in August saying, Darragh, what's the score? So hopefully he can return the favour with a goal against Blackburn. But I just think that he is becoming really important to this team. Obviously, taking the captain's armband when Howson went off. He's maybe gone under the radar a little bit in terms of his improvement in this side, but I think he's well deserving of his place. You know, he's keeping out Paddy McNair, who has been a really decent player for us over the past few seasons, particularly in that defence. So he's absolutely there on merit, and I think it's about time that he gets some praise from me. So yeah, Darragh Lenihan. And also I do want to shout out Red Faction, because that banner before kickoff was really, really good. It did get me a bit emotional because there's a red car person. My family, generations of the Malt family have been in the steelworks, and yeah, crushed me a little bit to see, well, crushed me a lot actually to see the red car skyline wiped out. But yeah, I thought it was a really good banner from Red Faction. So props to them for that.
Okay, and then I'm going to go for probably Hayden Hackney. I thought he was excellent. Probably I'll go with Marcus Forss. I think he doesn't get enough praise. I think he does a hard job up front. You know, he has to have. He's the first person in the press. He's always like up and down the pitch, and then he's now creating chances for himself. But I thought his finish against Wigan was excellent. You know, to open your body up and place it in the corner was beautiful. I just hope he can continue to score more goals, because it's going to be interesting to see what we do in the transfer window. If we bring another striker in, how does that affect Forss, and does he keep his spot? But for me, I think he's definitely deserving of his position at the moment, and hopefully it can continue. But let's look ahead to Blackburn now, where Boro go to Ewood Park. And the last time Boro won there was in 2019. But Dana, Tom, do you know who scored on that 1-0 win?
Probably Sam Gallagher on goal.
No, it wasn't Sam Gallagher on goal, but who
2019.
2019. I'll come back to it in just a moment, but Boro have won once in the last 15 meetings against Blackburn, and it was in 2019. But we spoke to Dan from Rovers Chat to give us some insight on Boro's trip on whatever day it is. I think it's the 29th, but no one knows the actual day.
Hi, it's Dan from Rovers Chat here, just giving my perspective ahead of Rovers versus Middlesbrough at Ewood Park on the 29th of December. So obviously Christmas fixture, we know the games come quick and fast, and it's been a really strange season for Rovers. We've picked up some good wins. You'll see at Middlesbrough early in the season, a really good win, a really good goal from Gallagher. And then you look at us getting battered off Burnley, battered off Sheffield United, battered yesterday off Sunderland. Realistically, I think we got really outdone. So it's been a really up and down season. It's hard to judge actually what Rovers are about, and this is the toughest question I get asked of anyone. When I get asked to sum up Rovers season, it's that up and down. It's hard to even tell, so it's a really strange one. You know, we a good side on a day. You know, you could come to Ewood tonight, and if we beat you 3-0, it wouldn't shock me. And if you beat us 3-0, it wouldn't shock us. And that absolutely sums Rovers up, that you don't know who's going to turn up. So it's frustrating, but it's also exciting at the same time. Key players to look out for: Ben Brereton Diaz. He's one you'll all know about. You know, he's not really scored recently, but a goal is coming from him. He's kind of in that stage now where once he gets one, I think he'll carry on scoring again. Sam Gallagher, as you'll know all about, seems to always turn into Messi when he plays against Middlesbrough. Really good striker for us. Maybe not a goal scorer for us normally, but always seems to have a good game against Middlesbrough. Bradley Dack, you all know about, made his way into the side compared to when we last played Middlesbrough, when he was basically frozen out. Now he's back in the side, being really our key player in my eyes in the last few games. Joe Rankin Costello at right backs. come back into the side. The first appearance this season, I believe. The first appearance this season, since August for him. Really impressed. There's a lot of talent in this side. It's just whether they turn up. And, when we look into January, it's can we add the depth so that once one player's not performing, we can add a player of the same quality and then up there perform. So I think probably a midfield is needed, a more senior head in the midfield because we got quite a young set of central midfielders. A striker would be on the list for me, although it's probably lower down unless Brereton Diaz does leave. And then I'd also pick up a left back. We can do a starting 11 is good enough, but Rovers are always hit by injuries, like every club is, I know, but we always seem to get the brunt of injuries. So a left back, a centre mid, and a striker, and I think we'll be in a position to go for the playoffs. Now it's just time for my prediction, and like I say, it's so hard to just issue. I've said I'll go for us to win with us being on home soil, but I know Middlesbrough are a good side. Good win against Wigan on Boxing Day. Michael Carrick's done a pretty good job from an outside perspective. It's such a tight game. Rovers are so unpredictable. It's all about which side turns up. Well, I think we'll know in the first 10 minutes who's going to win. But, that's why we love football. So thank you very much for having us on. If you want to check out Rovers Chat, we're on YouTube, Twitter, everywhere else. Plenty of content going on, but good luck for the season after the game.
So thank you very much, Dan. So, guys, can you answer my question? Boro won at Ewood Park in 2019, but who was the goal scorer? Tom, I'll let you go first. Who do you think?
I honestly have no idea. My guess would be Ashley Fletcher.
It wasn't Ashley Fletcher. It wasn't. Dana, if you've actually had a drink and take the cap off this time before you drank it.
Oh dear.
Do you know the answer to the question?
Was it Brit?
It was Britt Assombalonga.
I think it was on the telly, right?
It was on the telly, yeah. It was the game. I can't remember.
Was it the one where Fletcher shot across the box and he kind of jumped into the air and it blasted him in the face and went in?
Something like that, I think.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I remember it now.
Yeah, so we'll take that one. But let's look at this game then, because 1 win and 5 for Blackburn in all competitions. They've yet to draw a game all season. That is still going that run. They've got the joint third worst losses in the league with 11, but sit third in the championship table, which I think is absolutely bizarre. But over the last 6 games, their form has really started to dry up a little bit, with their XG lowering to an average of 0.6 over the last few games. So very few chances are being created, and they're not really scoring as much as they did at the start of the season. But how they'll set up in that 4-2-3-1 or a 3-4-3, but the 4-2-3-1 is the favoured formation at home. And we do pick 3 players out that we do look at, and there will be no surprise here. Tyler Morton, who was on loan from Liverpool, Ryan Hedges, who's the camp, and obviously Ben Brereton Diaz, who is just absolutely flying once again, and he's top of all of their chance creation, goals, assists, you name it, he is top of it, even goalkeeper saves. But the next one is Lewis Travis as well, who is really, really good in that CDM role. Shithousery is what I like to call him, and he's been their captain over the last couple of seasons now, has really progressed. I'm surprised he hasn't made a move yet to a Premier League team like a Bournemouth. I feel like it would really suit him, but he hasn't made the move just yet. But the return of Bradley Dack, like Dan mentioned, after a long-term injury, and was frozen out as well. He could be at the door in January, but he has been integrated back in and has been playing quite well over the last few weeks. But in terms of their style, it's very reactionary in terms of how they set up each game. Because when you look at their possession stats, they are willing to give teams most of the ball if they can get them on the counter-attack, which I think they will do over the game. They did at the Riverside, where they expected us to have more of the ball and countered us quite well. But I think they'll do this again this time around. But let's do predictions, because, like I said, 1 win in the last 15. I've never seen us win at Ewood Park, never even seen us score a goal at Ewood Park. You'll thank God to hear that I am not going to this game, but Dana and Tom are.
I'm not.
Tom, you're not going anymore. Oh, well,
Nope.
Cut that out then. We'll cut that out. Tom, you're not going to the game, but what's your prediction?
I'm going for a reverse of the result earlier in the season. I'm going to go 2-1 Boro, and Sam Gallagher's going to score for Blackburn. I'm going to put money on that.
I said that on Rovers chat.
I don't care who scores for us. We're winning 2-1, but he's definitely scoring for them, probably from about 40 yards, blasting it in at the top corner, which he has absolutely no business doing. Probably never dreamt about doing that before in his life, but he'll do it anyway.
Okay, Sam Gallagher anytime, but Boro win 2-1. Dana, what are you going to go for?
You know what? I am feeling good about this game, and I'm going to go 2-0 Boro, I think. In a weird day masterclass, we get a win. Sam Gallagher doesn't score, and I go home with 3 points from Ewood Park for the first time ever.
Okay, I'm going to go 1-1. I just think this, if there's going to be a draw this season for Blackburn, this is going to be it. 1-1 draw. But I would take a victory any day. I would take a victory with Sam Gallagher scoring an own goal because it's about time. Why don't we just do like we did before and just sign him like we did with Rodrigo because he scored against us a couple of times for Blackburn, and just let
and then
him.
He'll never score again.
And
He'll
never
have
let
the
him
new
score
Jason
again.
Ewell. Yeah.
The new Jason Ewell. Yeah. But guys, thank you very much for joining me as always. And to listeners and the viewers, thank you very much for listening and watching us on YouTube. But don't forget to subscribe to that as well, because 35% of our viewers don't subscribe to us on YouTube. So do subscribe, and our listeners as well. If you haven't subscribed to us on your podcast provider, please do. But what a Boxing Day bonanza for Boro with Chuba Akpom. It's a happy hat trick. It's happy holidays. This has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was all your Boro Match Day chatter in a pod.